Today, we're taking a little bit of a departure from our usual topics, which are all about emotional states. Today, we're going to be talking about sleep. So, why sleep? Does sleep have any impact on our emotional states, or what? I'm Pat Kazakoff. You're watching Psychological Insights. Stay with me as we talk about sleep with Dr. Robert Hamm. Hello, Dr. Hamm.
Morning there, Pat.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm fine. But
Good.
why are we talking about sleep? Why the departure from the emotional states?
Well, I think that even though sleep is not an emotion, I think it's a very important part of who we are psychologically, isn't it? And although it might maybe it gets a little bit of short shrift, I think that's part of the theme for today. People don't give it the value that they should often.
So, why do we sleep?
To restore equilibrium to our bodies and our minds. When we're sleeping, we go into different stages of sleep. So there's something called non-REM sleep, which is our deeper sleep. When you put yourself on one of those electroencephalogram machines, it measures your brain waves, and the deeper waves, such as delta, and gamma, they're deeper. Um, that's when we're in non-REM sleep, and during those periods, and there are 9 phases altogether. Normally, our bodies are being restored, so it helps us to rejuvenate our cells, to clean out all the debris. Um, and then when we're in REM sleep, that's short for rapid eye movement. That's when we're dreaming. Um, that's when our brain is, excuse me, being restored.
So, you're telling me that we really do need sleep, that it's not an imagination, that people need to sleep.
Well, if you've ever tried not functioning without sleeping, and that answers your question. I mean, it wears you down. It's necessary in order to live.
Well, I understand that babies sleep need 16 hours of sleep, whereas adults, we only need 7. Why the big difference?
Um, well, I mean, and neonates, they say, are even sleeping longer than that. Um, I mean, not neonates, but prenatal, a fetus. But because that's when our bodies and our minds are being nourished and replenished. So that's when all of our cells are enabled. That's when they are able to grow and to develop. So a neonate or children need more sleep than an adult does.
Because they're growing more? Is that the
That's right. Yeah, yeah. More
that's the
time.
concept? So
Yeah.
what's this about, like when you're sleeping, you're getting rid of amyloid beta? What is that all about? And its connection to Alzheimer's, etc. What is that about?
Yeah, so that's one of the functions of sleep. It sweeps away a lot of the debris. When we're sleeping in the in the in the in the beta stage, that's when we're in REM. That's when amyloid beta is a protein that accumulates during the day in our brains, and scientists still don't know exactly what its function is. But they have found in postmortem analysis, people with Alzheimer's have a special accumulation of amyloid plaques um, in their brain cells. So it's not a cause and effect, but there may be a relationship there between the amount of sleep that we get and the development of dementia.
Well, you said there may be a relationship. So
Mhm.
can you hypothesize that people who get more sleep have less chance of getting Alzheimer's, or is that where the cause and effect don't quite match up?
Well, they haven't really established cause and effect. They don't really understand yet what uh, amyloid beta does exactly, but they do know that it accumulates during the day, and part of the function of sleep is to sweep away this protein in the brain. But there's an accumulation of amyloid plaques in postmortem analysis of the brains of Alzheimer's. So they make an association um, there that there may be, it's speculation, a relationship between lack of sleep over years and years and the development of dementia.
So not exactly cause and effect, but certainly a um, a relationship.
Yes, well, it's not just that, but also there are other effects from not getting enough sleep over years. You can develop heart disease. So there's, a relationship between lack of sleep and development of strokes or having a heart attack later in life.
So
Uh,
what exactly are the risks? That was my next question. You answered it a little bit in advance, but what are the risks of not getting enough sleep?
Yeah, that. So those are pretty serious risks, aren't they? But also there's a relationship because when we're not sleeping enough, as you know, we're not alert enough. So we're more likely to be clumsy. We're going to miss things. So, there's some research to show that driving on the road, there's a 30% higher chance of getting into an automobile accident if you're not getting enough sleep, less than 6 hours a night, than those who get 7 hours or more.
So can we talk a little bit about given what you just said, one would assume that everybody would be really into sleeping a lot. So what are the causes of this sleep deprivation?
Uh, yes, that's a very important question because in recent years, especially here in the United States, people are depriving themselves of sleep more than ever. So I think it really is important to look into that, what's going on there here, especially in this culture. People in the United States get much less sleep than the Japanese, than the French, than the British, the Germans, right across the board. People in the so-called industrialized nations, we are the most sleep deprived. And why is that? Um, so I believe that there are three general reasons why that is. One of them is economic. I think today in our world, here in the United States especially, we don't have the standard of living that we used to. So people are working harder and harder to maintain a lifestyle that's more and more difficult to maintain economically. So you have in a household today, you have two people, earning an income, trying to make ends meet or keep up with a certain standard of living. So people, uh, and I can tell you in my practice, in private practice, many of my patients, especially those who work in corporate America, I mean, I hate to bash corporations. Well, no, actually, I don't hate it. but,
Please, your private feelings are coming out loud and clear.
um, but I hear over and over again how many of the workers, and I'm talking about executives, people at a high level, are overworked. They're not the health and the welfare of the workers are not given sufficient consideration and concern. It's all about the bottom line is the dollar, and you have to put in the hours, and it doesn't make any difference if you're asked to work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. It doesn't make any difference. Productivity, it's all about productivity. So not enough compared to other countries where a greater degree of emphasis is given to people's health and welfare. The United States is the worst. And sleep is part of that equation. So that's one. Another reason I think that we don't get enough sleep here in the United States is it's a cultural, I think, sort of tradition, unfortunately, that we don't seem to value sleep as much as we should. So I think that for many people, it seems to be equated with laziness or a lack of ambition. Um, and that there's nothing further from the truth in that. That we know from empirical studies and physiological studies, as I've been, was saying earlier, how important sleep is to our mental well-being, our ability to function efficiently.
I know that amongst my friends, my friends, there isn't a saying when everyone is really pushing out. They say, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," and that basically speaks to the point that you're making. That there's a sense of laziness if you sleep, that you need more sleep, that there's something a little bit wrong with you.
Yeah, so these friends are not from France or England or Japan.
No, these, you are correct. You are correct. These are cultural Americans.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So that's another reason. And finally, the third reason, I believe, Pat, today, as you know, I mean, we have so many media now that are constantly in our face wherever we go. Can't go any place without a TV screen. So with television sets and laptops and computers and smartphones, uh, all of this at our fingertips, we are saturated, oversaturated with electronic media. We're overstimulated. And also, I mean, there's some research to suggest that maybe ADHD, attention deficit disorder, may also, the development of it in childhood may be related to a saturation with cell phones and media. Um, so all of that makes it very difficult to pull away, relax, and also the something about the wavelength, blue light, as you know. So if you have that going on late at night, it's very difficult to get to sleep. Our brains need to get off of that kind of wavelength. Um, so I mean, you can change on a setting on your phone to change the light tone, um, but it's also the exposure to this all the time. Um, so this technological addiction, if you will, or saturation in our culture, I think, has also contributed to this eternal wakefulness, if you will. Stores are open 24/7, all hours of the day and night. We live in a culture that never sleeps in a way.
well, given everything that you've said, it's amazing that we're not more sort of sleep centric, because the statistics for what's it called, the sleep center of medicine, the medical sleep center, the statistics are terrible.
Yeah,
um, I mean, I'm reading here that 40% of adult Americans and 70% of adolescents are sleep deprived. I mean, that's huge.
you bet. That's
And
right.
and also, like you talked about America, so the American model is the French work 500 less hour. We work 500 more hours than the French.
A
Like,
year.
what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why do we need to do that? I mean, 500 more hours per annum is about 10 hours a week. That's an extra day that we fit in that France doesn't. And the statistics are equally bad with Germany and Japan. I mean, we beat everybody as far as working harder and more.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think those are the three reasons that I mentioned: the economic, the cultural, and the technological. I mean, these other societies also have technology as well, but I think it is cultural, and um, yeah, I think that it's insidious. People don't realize they think it's just something unnecessary. We don't, it's a luxury to sleep, and it shouldn't be regarded as that. It's
So
something. Yeah.
So what are some of the sleep disorders associated with this lack of sleep? Because there certainly is a huge amount of lack of sleep, and there's got to be sleep disorders that are commensurate with this lack of sleep.
Yeah, there are many different kinds of sleep disorders, and today now there are sleep disorder clinics. So I know that many of my patients have consulted a specialist in this area who have had problems with sleeping. The most common that we all know about is insomnia, but there are many different kinds of insomnia. But it's hard for scientists really to get a grasp on how many people suffer from chronic insomnia. We all have insomnia now and then for whatever reason. We have stress in our lives, or we have to get up for an appointment earlier than usual, take a, you know, catch a flight or whatever. But if it's chronic, over a period of several weeks into months, then we have what's called a sleep disorder, and it's difficult to get a hard and fast statistic, but anywhere between 10 and 60% of people suffer from this. Um, there are different kinds of insomnia, but so the DSM in American Psychiatric Association divides it into three basic types.
Just for our viewers' sake, the DSM is the diagnostic. What is DSM for our viewers?
Yeah, it's the psychiatrist Bible, if you will. It stands for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual,
Right.
which is in its fifth edition now. But they categorize sleep in insomnia, sleep disorders, into, three categories. There's primary. The first type is the inability to fall asleep, a delayed onset. Um, the second is difficulty maintaining sleep. Um, and then the third is waking up early morning awakening. And there can be different causes for the different types.
The difficulty of maintaining sleep, is that what you spoke about, the REM and non-REM sleep? Is that where you were going with that, the kind of sleep?
Uh, well, no, not exactly. I mean, when we're sleeping, we're going in and out of REM. So the difficulty maintaining means that you're able to fall asleep fine, but like 3 hours later, 2 hours later, you wake up, or you wake up several times, or it's hard. And there can be different reasons for that. People who are older have difficulty more than young people with this kind of insomnia for chronic pain, medical reasons, having to get up to use the bathroom. Those are the most common causes. Um, but primary insomnia often can be due to stress in your life, anxiety, um, difficulty in regulating your sleep patterns. Adolescents especially have a lot of difficulty with this part because their melatonin doesn't kick in as early as adults do. So they're often, that's one reason why adolescents especially are sleep deprived, as well as older adults. Um, and early morning awakening often is associated with depression. It's one of the diagnostic indicators.
Hmm. That's interesting. I thought like sleeping more was a bigger indication of depression, that you don't wake up in the morning, you just want to stay in bed. But
Well, it can be that too. With clinical depression, you can have either insomnia or hypersomnia. It's called either too little or too much. People manifest their symptoms in different ways. Yeah.
you know, you know what I'm hearing a lot about now? Obstructive sleep apnea, which I never heard about before. Maybe it's the age, but talk a little bit about what that's about.
Yeah, it's something that it wasn't really all that seemingly prevalent. I think that it was there. We're not aware of it. Um, I guess because we just were not cognizant, um, assuming that people were sleeping normally when they weren't. Um, so this is when there's some kind of an obstruction in your air passage. People who are overweight are especially susceptible, although it could be due to other reasons, such as some kind of structural anomalies in your throat. But they estimate about 1 in 15 people, and then only have this. But excuse me, of those that do, only 15% are diagnosed. So it's much more prevalent than we had realized. So what are the symptoms? If you're, having a lot of difficulty staying awake during the day, you're very tired, it may be a reason. If you're overweight, as I said, snoring is often associated with chronic obstructive sleep apnea. Or, if you're sleeping with a partner, the partner notices that, gee, he seems to be choking in his sleep, or he stops breathing. These are some of the signs, temporarily stops breathing.
Yeah, that seems to be a big sign. Temporarily stops breathing. I think I would notice that.
Yeah, well, a lot of people. So I mean, you have to have a partner. If you don't know it. If you're sleeping alone, you're not aware, and so that's one of the reasons why it's often undiagnosed, or it hasn't been really given the awareness that we should to this disorder. But it's a very dangerous thing. So it's associated with heart disease. Um,
And that's probably why I didn't hear about it before, because as a young person, you're not sleeping with a partner. So why would you hear of that?
that's
What
right.
about what about circadian rhythm sleep disorder? Something else I've been hearing about. What's that about?
Uh, uh, yeah, circadian rhythm sleep disorders. That's used to be called phase shift sleep disorders. It's when our biological clock it goes awry. we don't get adjusted. So we have within our brains this chemical. It's a neuromodulator called adenosine uh, that it regulates our sleep cycles. Um, and so, uh, it's important that we kind of try to keep our sleep as regular as possible, uh, so that our adenosine, tells us when it accumulates during the day, it makes us drowsy. But if we fight that, if we drink a lot of coffee, let's say, we throw off our biological rhythm, and that makes it more difficult to regulate our sleep and to fall asleep. Um, and it's a a cause for sleep disorders, a sleep deprivation. So when that happens, we want to get our sleep regulated. You have to be pretty militant in changing your sleep schedule, getting up earlier, let's say. If you're getting to bed too late, teenagers often have this problem because their biological clocks are not quite set the same as adults. And try to get to sleep. So if you get up earlier and try to avoid taking naps during the day, you're going to be sleepier, more drowsy. That will induce sleep earlier in the evening. If you have
All,
difficulty doing that.
and also not to drink coffee.
Yeah, drinking coffee. If you drink coffee, drink it early in the morning. Don't drink too much, take in too much caffeine, because that blocks it blocks the adenosine receptors in the brain, and it will over time cause sleep deprivation, of course. Melatonin is something you can get over the counter to help induce sleep at night, also to help get your sleep cycle regulated.
And also, I understand that if you drink milk, or is that wives' tale, that milk has melatonin in it? So before you go to sleep, does that have
Yeah,
any?
yeah, it has a tryptophan, a milk, turkey. There's certain dairy products. Adenosine eventually is transformed by the brain into different chemicals. It's a digestive substance that eventually gets transformed into into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and then eventually into uh, these substances that you can imbibe that will help induce this state of sleepiness that adenosine naturally doesn't. It's an internal substance, but you can introduce it with foods and warm milk late at night. Yep.
I know that there's other sleep disorders like restless leg syndrome and parasomnia, just to name a few, but we don't have a huge amount of time. So before we leave, I want you just to give me an overview of how to sleep better.
Yeah. There are several tips that I'd like to offer my patients, and it's on my blog. Um, there's something called sleep hygiene, um, which is a host of different things that you can do to get yourself ready to sleep at night. And so that includes getting ready earlier enough. You should prepare yourself, engage in certain rituals that are relaxing, stay away from television or things that are highly stimulating, working late at night, uh, cell phones, turn those off early. Um, Reserve your bedroom, just for sex or sleep, not eating and doing work, exercise or whatnot. Um, Make your room conducive so it's dark. So if you have a lot of light in the morning, get room darkening shades if you need to. The room should be cool. Cool temperatures are conducive to sleeping. Um, and a firm mattress, a good mattress is so important uh, for a good night's sleep. And then aromatherapy, they say that the lavender scents are good to help induce sleep. So those are some of this basic principles of sleep hygiene. Um,
So Dr. Hamm, are you recommending a mattress that we should buy?
Well, I can't really plug any brands.
Well, I'm just in case I wanted to ask.
Try to make sure that your mattress isn't too old. I think probably a lot of people are sleeping on old mattresses and don't realize how important it is. I think they should be replaced every 10 years, I think, as a general rule. And it should be relatively firm, not too firm. They have a lot of good mattresses out there. I think these ones uh, that um, Tempur-Pedic, that kind of, I know it's a brand, but that material often is too hot. But today they have cooling gel. So you should have a mattress that, it's firm enough, but also is cool enough to induce sleep.
Well, okay. I don't know if I'm going to take your mattress recommendations under
Okay.
consideration, but I get the body of work. And I guess the conclusion we all derive from this is that sleep is really, really necessary, and to focus on it, like instead of ignoring it, that it can have deleterious effects if you don't sleep properly. So thank you very much for this topic, and we will see you next month.
Okay, thank you.